All right, go. It says, well, welcome to another edition of Boundaries and Brotherhood. And today's topic is going to be how to connect when life pulls you apart.
You joined by accident.
But guys, oh, you just joined somehow. Have you ever wondered when life starts to pull you apart, your situation, your family, your professional? Remember when your crew, your boys was inseparable, and then life got in the way, you kind of like lost touch? It doesn't even have to be that way because those are the guys that you kind of go back to and rely on when you understand that they're going to be there for you all the time. Like even for my guys, it's all about I can call them, they'll tell me the truth. Gordon, you might be fucking up, or you might be this and that. But then again, too, they can do that for me, vice versa, right? Friends, sometimes you have to get back to that because that bond, that camaraderie is what you're looking for all the time. Doc, how's your convention? And he has a perfect story for this. And we're gonna be going over some concrete strategies for reconnection, rekindle deep friendships, and big find a way to get bigger support systems for life challenges.
Yeah. So, greetings, everybody. Dr. Keith Fairclough. You know, it's good to be back. I know we were off last week because I was out of town. I was at the Dr. Thomas conference, the 1% conference, which is good. It was a great conference. You know, I actually went with my son. You know, and it was the first time, as Gordon was saying, it was the first time me and him had been out together like that.
Life got in the way.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I think now he's 19 now, right? So,
yeah.
But long story short, gentlemen, like this is something that does happen. And I think we're all guilty of it to some degree, right? The whole idea of kind of life getting in the way, like we were real cool with our friends. We would hang out. We would do all these things together. But then we start getting married and we start getting jobs and we start moving away. Then we start taking other responsibilities. Then before it's all said and done, that close, tight-knit bond, it's not that you guys aren't friends anymore, but we end up becoming disconnected. We get lost in our titles. We get lost in our jobs. We get lost in all these things. And we end up giving up one of the supports that we need, that connection that we need, you know, and we all do it. That's the thing. But today we're going to be talking about how you can get back, right? How you guys can reconnect, you know, and I have other stories about that as well. Because again, I've been guilty of it too. But we're going to talk about the importance of getting back, making that connection, being able to link up and talk with your friends, and being able to have that community, that brotherhood that you guys once had before. Instead of trying to recreate the wheel, you know, you can now just go back and just reactivate what you already had in the first place.
I mean, yeah, that's just how it is. But yeah, I'm guilty of it also because you got to understand a lot of times people get in the way, your jobs get in the way, your profession, life moves fast, right? Life moves fast. Next thing you know, 10 years goes by, 20 years goes by, and then you think back at what really happened. And then you start feeling isolated. What did I miss out with my friend's family? You mean, and speaking from my point of view, from doing my federal vacation and doing all that stuff, I was a deadbeat dad at one point in my life. And this is why I can speak from just that point of view, because that's why all my family right now, my wife, my sons and everything get the best of me, because I had a quote just the other day, you know, the best men are the men that got broken at one time and fix themselves. Because if you don't know how to fix yourself and you need that camaraderie from other men and other people for your support to actually point you in that right direction, because if not, from our last week's show, how do you build your community and find the camaraderie that you always been looking for, but don't have it? But then you got to find out, like, a lot of the times it doesn't have to be that way. You know, it's time to enjoy and give the attention that you want to the people that you love and have that circle of friends that you can rely on. Mm-hmm. Doc, what do you think about how you're seeing in your practice, right? How does that relate to you pointing them in the right direction from your stories?
In my practice, when it comes to that, the guys that do have this issue, this problem, for one, it's gone on for quite some time, right? Like they become so disconnected that it's like it's like having to restart all over again, right? It's not even for unfortunately for some of them, it's like I can't even go back to them, right? So not because there's any type of falling out, just because it was just like we are so far apart and so disconnected. We're living in other parts of the world and things like that. I see a lot of men getting caught up in their roles, right? They
Oh,
forget who they are as individuals, and they get caught up in the role as a father, as a husband, as whatever other roles or titles they might take on. You get so caught up in that role, you actually forget that you are actually an individual doing those things, not being those things. And then you forget the support that you need. I see also a lot of guys being the paramount of support to other people. So meaning that they, instead of them connecting and reaching out and opening up and sharing, they're the go-to for everybody. So those are the things that I tend to see more often than not in my practice with men. Like it's that the isolation, getting lost in the roles, or you're the go-to guy, and so now you don't want to go to anybody else because you're the go-to guy. But the fact of the matter is, we absolutely do need to be able to connect and reconnect with our friends and engage in different activities and really prioritize it so that we don't lose that connection, lose that community, and lose that support.
today I want to talk about the 3 questions you got to feel like if you're asking yourself, if especially if you're a guy, like you see women, they have their little girlfriends and they're all of the things. They do girls' night, they do girl vacations, all that crap, right? If you're a man and you're feeling isolated because of you're the go-to guy and that's the way you're getting validated, right? What happens when you need a situation to be fixed? And then how do you go about guilt, not feeling guilty over neglected friendships because of the situation that you might be in right now, right? Because even though you might be the person everybody comes to for answers, like I'll give you a perfect example. Everybody used to come to me for answers at work because they've known I've been through, I've lived a pretty fulfilling life. The way I would put it so that they could relate to it, because they would never be able to understand it and live it, they would ask how I could be that way. Now, when it would be time for me to ask questions about their lives, they would tell me, but Gordon, you've been through so much more than me. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's where you have to kind of like hold yourself back, because it's like it's good to ask questions. It's good to see where people came from. It's good to see how you can put yourself in a situation, because like Paul Harvey says, this is where the story starts and ends. And one of the main things that I want to say is like it's good to get to know other people for what they truly are and what they're not, because you guys can both lift each other up. Like me and Doc, perfect example. Me and Doc can lift each other up from working together in this environment because we're here for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, besides real talk, right? It's just, I can see his character. I can see the integrity. I can see his path. I can see his intentions, right? And that's what you got to have from your friends also, because I don't like to let people down. Think about it yourself. How many of you that's in this group right now watching this live like to let other men down? I can say 95% of you don't like to let other guys down because that's in our DNA, right? But what happens when you feel down and you need to reach out? Talk about that
Yeah.
one.
So I would say, honestly, a lot of the guys that I've worked with in my practice, a lot of times those guys tend to be that, right? And so that's
Mm,
why they're reaching out for help now. They'll come to a therapist so that they can actually, instead of having to be the one, giving the help, they could be the one to receive, right? They can be the one to share what they're thinking and what they're feeling. When you are able to reignite your friend groups, you're able to reconnect with your friends, your best friends, your inner circle, you gain access to that immediately. You don't have to wait to go to a therapist. Now, I'm not
yep,
saying
no.
don't go to a therapy, right? Or don't get a therapist,
Yeah,
because obviously we had different skills and strategies that you could use to help better your situation. But sometimes you just need someone to talk to. Sometimes you just need someone to kind of just get it out, right? And having your friends, having that brotherhood, reigniting that gives you an opportunity to do that, especially when the chips are down. Because, for example, if you're
yep,
really going through it and it's 11 o'clock at night, chances are you're not going to get
of
me,
course. Me
whoever your
too.
therapist is, right? Some have extremely strict boundaries when it comes to communication outside of therapy. Long story
Yeah,
short, right? The professionals may not be available when you really, really, really need them, but your friends, the ones you can call at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, listen, man, I'm going through it. or I made a really bad decision, or whatever the case, they will be available. They'll answer the phone. They'll be like, hey, they'll wake up, be groggy. They might have work in the next couple of hours. They probably just went to bed. They'll be the ones to wake up and hear you out and listen. They'll be the ones to build you up. They'll be the ones you could connect with and at least triage you in that moment until you get back to a profession where you can actually get that help. So that's the importance of making sure you reignite those friend groups, reignite those lines of communication. That's the importance of it.
But guys, when Doc says, the therapy might not be available at that time, you do have your friends, but you also have to have friends that's going to keep you in line also, because I used to be the friend, or I used to have friends, is when you're calling up 2-3 o'clock in the morning and you're going to say the answer of, what do I bring? Whether it's rope, the pieces, or the shovel, you mean that it's like then you have to kind of like take back on stuff. So don't do that, guys. Be a good friend and direct him in the right direction. That's just a little sense of humor right there because of the past. Because if not, just understand what Doc was saying. Like, your friends that can keep you in line, you're always going to have 2 or 3 maybe that you can count on your hand if you're lucky. Good ones. They're going to tell you straight up, right? When you rekindle deep friendships, like I can call my friends, some friends that I haven't talked to in years right now, and they're going to say, I love what you're doing, Gordon. They follow me. They might not engage with me as much, but they know I'm there. Yeah. That's the whole thing. That's real friendship. That's real camaraderie. And then, because you need to have consistent connection with no guilt also. Like if you start feeling guilty about like saying, like, I'll give you a perfect example, right? I get what people go through, because even like for myself, like people rage, people snap, but you need to be there for yourself and your friends. Now, if you want to take that and say, for example, that guy didn't have nobody to talk to and he just went off the rail, right?
Yeah.
How many lives could be prevented? Not just the kids' lives. I mean, it was like 3 to 13. He did them all in, or something like ridiculous. And that's the situation. This is why you need a support group of friends, of good friends, that you can count on and not feel guilty about, and stop the shame cycle that you might be going through within yourself, right? Because if you're not doing that for yourself, how can you be any good to anybody else? Doc, how can you stay consistent by keeping your brotherhood thriving? I mean, what do you tell some of your clients?
I mean, I think the first thing you have to do, honestly, guys, is just make it a priority. And, we make time for things that are important, period. That's just what it is. If you'll know how important something is to you based on how much time you make for it. So, no, it doesn't matter what you say. You can say, yeah, it's so important to me. Oh, it means so much. That how much time are you spending with that?
True.
Just answer that question. You got to be honest to yourself.
That's the big one. Yeah.
You don't understand, look at my schedule and I just don't have the time and this and this and that and that. All right. So, and this is that's so important. So if I were to audit your day from the moment you got up to the moment you went to sleep, you're telling me you didn't have time to make a phone call, shoot a text message, DM someone online, send an email. You said you didn't have time to do any of that. You couldn't set aside any time at all. Like your life is in that shape where you have to work from sun up to sundown, and you come home, you bathe, you go to sleep, you wake up, do the same. We all know our lives are like that. Most of our lives are not like that. And some of us, and I will say some of us lives that are like that is because we made some pretty bad decisions financially. And so we have to do and operate like that now. Otherwise, everything falls apart, right? And of course, there might be some outliers where it's like, no, Keith, you really don't understand. Might be some outliers. We're talking about generally, though. More often than not, there is the time. Now, I'll give you guys a perfect example. Me and my best friend, right? We've been friends since, middle school, 7th grade, I think. Life, right? I moved away. I went to college. I went here, there, and everywhere. And all these got married, all these things happened, took place, right? And we would check in and we would talk from time to time, but it wasn't like when we were growing up, like, thick as thieves, always at each other's houses, always like moving and things like that, right? Going places, things like that. So what do I have to do? I said, so what do we do? We like playing video games. He lives in Texas. I'm in Las Vegas, right? I'm in Nevada. So we like playing video games. So what we do? We found a good game to play together. We set aside time, twice a week to play, right? It's important to me. I will make sure I get there unless, again, things happen. Like last week, obviously, I was out of town. He was out of town, things like that. But unless something like that happens, I set aside the time. No, but you could be grinding and making money. Yeah, I could also be connecting with my best friend. I could also be having conversations with him about things that are going on in his life and in my life. I could also be showing my kids the importance of having those connections and keeping those connections. And I'll be honest, my kids have actually done a better job of it than me, because my sons have had friends in Florida. We moved from Florida in 2020, and they are still connected to them to this day. Talk on the phone, play games together,
Nice.
text, all that. So they're doing better than me, in those situations. So the long story short is, you got to make the time for it. No one's going to do it for you. You have to make the time, and you guys got to make sure you're not making excuses. Both of you had to make sure you value the relationship enough to make the time for it and set that time aside. Once you start doing that, then you have that connection.
No, I mean, that's 100%. But then, like, for your son situation, right? Have you ever thought of it that maybe you instilled that in them to have that connection because of the bigger picture of who you are and what you've instilled in them? Because the bigger picture is, you're not just playing a video game, right? You're actually connecting on a more deeper level, talking crap, seeing how you laughing at it. You mean, for some, I could be envious of that because I didn't have a best friend like that when I was growing up, because I was always bouncing houses.
Yeah.
I never was in one place at one time because divorced parents, not having money, moving apartments, living in the projects. So I'm kind of envious of that. And then when you look at not having connection, you try to do that with, say, having money, power, and being the ego eccentric person that everybody wants to go for. And that's what we're trying to change right here, because you might be in a fadeaway effect with your friends, your family, or your close friends that you might not have, or you might need to find somebody that does connect with you. And stop being isolated in a way where you do something ridiculous, right? Or you can actually take a good look at yourself, talk to your real good friends, and figure out a way that you guys can connect on a daily basis. Like, that's a perfect example. And instill it into your sons, because that's what I'm trying to do with my kids and my family, because communication is key. And to the point where communication is also connection on a more deeper, bigger picture level. Because if you don't have that, what do you have at the end of it all? Yeah, like I said, I've made $1 million twice in my life. I spent it all because all comes insecurities of my own self doing. Right? I've dealt drugs. I've been a criminal. I've been addicted. I mean, all this other good stuff that comes along with it. But I didn't break. But I still have my friends. Like, we all can relate to it, because that's the cool part. Because now we can laugh at it. Now we're connected. Now we're bonded in that instant, even though it's a bad situation.
Yeah.
But we can look back. Doc, let me ask you this one, right? Find out, what's the gap between isolation and authentic communication from a professional standpoint?
The gap between isolation and, what was the other one? Communication?
Communication and connection. Because why do people isolate themselves? Is it trust? Is it honesty? Is it because they're lying to themselves? What's your take?
So as far as that's concerned, I mean, there's a lot of societal pressures, I would say, and cultural pressures to do it by yourself, to stand on your own 2 feet, and in all ways. And so a lot of guys don't open up because of those societal pressures, from those cultural pressures. So it's like, let me isolate, right? So let me handle everything by myself. And we were just, again, we're never meant to do that. Like, we're never meant to do that, ever. We're meant to be in community. We're meant to be connected. We're meant to seek help. We're meant to lean on one another. Like, we're absolutely meant to do that. I think the Bible talks about that, a lot as well. God said it's not good for man to be alone. It says, a threefold cord is not easily broken. It talks about, what is it? Was a friend near is better than a brother afar off. I'm paraphrasing that. You see the whole concept of connection. I mean, shoot, the whole Bible is about the whole redemption story, God reconnecting with man. So we're not meant to be isolated. You don't become more of a man because, I handle everything by myself, right? Now, of course, we're not talking about like daily living stuff. You should have a job. You should be able to pay your bills. You should be able to do that. Like, you should be able to do those things. But that's not even being a man. That's being an adult. Women should do the same thing. Right? Like, yeah. So you should be able to be that. That's just called taking care of yourself and being an adult. Everyone should. It has nothing to do with being a man, right? There's kids that are able to do that right now. So that's nothing to do with being a man. So we need to abandon all of these ideas of, oh, I got to do everything by myself and I can't ask for help and all those things like of that nature, right? And if you're in a situation or been in a situation where trust is an issue because maybe you've opened up before and it was used against you and things of that nature, well, there's certain skills that you could learn in order so that you don't have to worry about that again, right? You don't have to worry about trust being broken and things like that again, because if you know how to discern a situation, to discern people, like I try to tell people as well, like before I start really opening up and sharing stuff about myself, I see how you act and how you move and how you talk about other people. And there's so many scenarios where I saw how people moved and how they talked about other people. And I'm like, you told me everything I need to know. Now, guess what? I don't open up. I don't share. Guess what? I don't get hurt. But guess what? The people who are good, the people who are close, the people who, guess what? I can now open up to them. And so now this whole fear of opening up because it could be used against me. And there's things to deal with it as far as that's concerned, but it's not there anymore. If you learn the skills and how to navigate that, you don't have to really worry about trust anymore. You don't have to worry about your vulnerabilities being weaponized against you anymore. But I would say that's probably why there's such a gap between, as far as like isolation versus connection. It's because we have a lot of these age old ideas that, again, I don't know where they came from, when they came into existence, of you got to be separate and by yourself and alone and handle everything by yourself. I would say that's probably the number one reason for the gap. Probably the number two reason is, like I said earlier, all the responsibility. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm trying to do it all by myself. It's a matter of, I'm getting lost in the sauce with being a father and a husband and a businessman, an employee, or whatever the case. You get so lost in that we're just essentially just focus all energies into that.
No, I mean, I totally agree with everything what you said there, because even from prehistoric days, you have to lean on the guys you was living in your tribe to go hunt. So it's in our DNA. Like Doc said, he don't know. He don't know where it came from. And then I get it, the tough man mentality, the alpha male. You want to do it alone. Everybody's gonna follow you, all this stuff because you want to be a leader. But sometimes a leader is being vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a leader takes matters in his own hand and reaches out to his friends and his family and breaks a cycle of what he's been taught. Because say your great grandfather grew up in a different time. It's just taking from you. Take, and what? Either taking your money, your soul, your resources, all for what? Just because they can't be successful on their own, so they need you to do that. Now, when in the matters of saying fading away and becoming this man of value, of choice, right? Do you think, what are some of the attributes you think that men should have to be this person so they can stay grounded, to have communication, to have be seen, to be valued, right? Because this way, if you're seen and valued and you validate yourself and you can ask your brothers for support honestly, how does that make them a better man, a better person in general, like you said? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's always important for us as men to self-reflect. I mean, again, I think everyone should
Oh,
self-reflect, but
absolutely.
we're talking to men right now, you know, to self-reflect and really put things in the proper perspective. So whatever issues you might have, because if your issue is I don't want to open up because I'm concerned about it or whatnot, put it in the framework of, is this just a me thing, or is this like something that people generally deal with? And you could always, this is something people generally deal with. I was in a session yesterday and a client was sharing something and they said, yeah, I've experienced that too. I've been in that spot too. And I said to my client, yeah, me
Wow.
too. Right.
Right.
So the whole idea is that no one will understand and no one's going to get it. And like, these are all false premises. They're all false. Right. Many people go through the exact same thing. We're not that unique. I know the Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun, and there's not. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're experiencing, there's probably people in your circle that experience the same thing. And again, coming from a spiritual standpoint, the devil seeks to isolate, right? Divide and conquer. And that's obviously, in the natural realms, you're keeping people separate, isolating. Damage happens that way. A lot of people, unfortunately, are unaliving themselves because, or doing crazy things like that guy was doing, because it's like there's no hope, there's no way out of this. But I can guarantee you, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other people who've been through the exact same thing. And they either can tell you how to endure, or they can also tell you how to overcome it and get through it, you know? And so I think it's really important for us to just kind of keep that in mind, that our situations are not unique and there is help for it, and there is a way out, and there is a way to become a better man. But again, kind of tying back to what we're talking about as far as the analyzing it yourself, like, don't ever get to the point where you're thinking I'm the only person that's going through this, or, you know, no one's going to understand or anything like that, you know. And then here's the thing, that's a faulty premise as well, saying no one else is going to understand. How do you know what else people are going to understand? How do you know if you don't explain it? Maybe maybe your brother and your friend didn't go through that, but how do you know they're not going to understand where you're coming from? How hard it is to have a lot of pressure on you. We can gather that. You know, how you feel you're at the end of your rope with your relationship. Relationship stuff happens to people. Feeling like you're not doing enough happens to guys, right? Feeling like you're not making enough happens to guys. Feeling like, you know, if your wife is making more or something like that, that happens to, like, none of these things that we're experiencing are so foreign that we have no idea what you're going through. Especially we're not just talking about random strangers. We're talking about your friends, the people in your inner circle, the people that you trust, the people that you care about, the people that you love. They're going to understand where you're coming from. So don't hold back because you think they won't. You know, give them the opportunity to show up for you. And I think that's why that's so important. So yeah, analyze it and just look at it and be like, yeah, this is stuff that people go through on a regular basis. You know? Let me get some different perspectives on it.
You got to understand the pressures that you might be going through. Somebody else is going through it. But if you don't tell somebody else what you're going through that cares about you, how are they supposed to know? How are they supposed to direct you? How are they supposed to encourage you, support you, bring you up, and put you in the right direction? I'll give you a story, because I just seen a quote on one of these things I was watching where the guy was, the best thing that could have happened to him was he got arrested by the feds, right? And I totally could relate to this, because when the feds get on your ass, right, Doc, you have, you know, and just so happened that this came up, and this is a perfect scenario for this, right? When the feds are after you, the pressure starts pulling down on weight on you, because you know, as a criminal, shit is closing in. The walls are closing. State is after you. The drugs are coming around. The people that you once knew ain't going to be in your corner. All of this starts to pressure on, and then just so happen you might have the IRS or the state after you all at the same time. They want you to cooperate. You don't know what to do. You don't want to cooperate. You don't want to do this. You're thinking about your family. You're doing this. The pressure. And then what happens, guys, is anybody that had been through the system knows that there's a relief that happens when you get arrested. And not many people can understand, because it's like, it's finally freaking over. I can go do my time and hopefully get the help you desire from yourself during that time, during that vacation. Now, it doesn't help that you might be high all the time.
That could be problematic.
After you detox and you go through everything, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years, hopefully you come out a better person, minded, consciously. And that's why we do these things right here. Because for some of you that's watching this, I know we all been through, you guys know my history, my background, and know the change that I've created inside and outside, right? And a lot of the times, to be able to work with a therapist, that's why I always thank Doc. What Doc gives to me on a weekly basis, besides the brotherhood, camaraderie, he gives me validation that I'm on the right track all the time, unintentionally, unconsciously. That's what we want for you guys, because at the same time, vice versa, he gets a certain different angle sometimes. I can see it in Doc's eyes, like, holy shit. But it's so fun to be able to do this, because at the same time, we know we're helping people, right? Because even like our show my show with Carrie under the Boundaries and Brotherhood umbrella, her clients' husbands now watch us for the different angle, which at the beginning of this all was, I hope this is the right direction, and it validates what my direction was, because we, like you said, women have their groups, men need the groups, even though you don't admit it. You might have friends, and this is why last week's show was the how to connect. It was the last week's show was the lonely man's isolation or something like that, where you can find that thing. But you got to understand, when you're going through something, and you feel the pressure of something coming about, that is a time to reach out to somebody that can understand you, been through the situation, that, the mentoree thing kind of going on, right?
Mhm.
It might pull you out of something that be really dumb, where you can gather your thoughts back, you're emotional, and have the drive to change. Because if you don't change, guess what happens? It's gonna happen again consistently.
Mhm.
Once you
Yeah.
happen it consistently, and you don't have the tools, or you don't have the direction, you don't have the support, guess what happens? You repeat that cycle over again. And that's not what we want for you guys.
Yeah.
Doc, let me ask you this last question, right?
Mhm.
If you're too busy for your brothers, are you too busy to grow?
Hmm. That's a great question, right? That's a great question. I guess the first thing I like to pull things apart. When you say you're too busy, again, that goes back to priorities.
Mhm.
It's actually not really a joke, because I actually do mean this seriously. So sometimes people ask me for money and I'll say I don't have it. And $10, $20, whatever the case may be. If you look at my bank account, you'd be like, Keith, that's a lie. That's a lie. You do have it. You could swing $10. You could swing $20. I don't have it for you. That is not, I'm not prioritizing money for you because you don't pay me back. So I don't have it for you, right? And so this is about priority, though, right?
Right,
Somebody
right.
else might come along and say, hey, actually the same 20, absolutely. I might give you 50. Why? Because it's a priority. That person I'm prioritizing.
Right.
So some people are very low on the totem pole, right? I'm not going to prioritize them. Right? Some other people, I would drop everything and go to them immediately. I remember one
Mhm.
time I was at work when I was in Florida, and I got a call from my sister. Someone called me. Some mom was in the hospital. Guess what I did? That's my mom. I said, "Hey guys, wrapping it up. I gotta go. My mom's in the
Right.
hospital. I'm not asking permission. I'm letting I'm leaving right now." Right. When my father, when he unfortunately passed away, my sister, I know for sure my sister called me, left the message then. I wasn't like, I'll get down there when I get down there. I started rushing around my apartment. My wife was there, girlfriend at the time, throwing my stuff in there, wasn't rolling nothing up, just throwing stuff in there, and it ran to my car. That's priority. So when
Mhm.
you say you're too busy, you're not really too busy. What you're really saying is it's not really a priority for me.
Right.
Which really means, because it sounds bad, but yeah, you're not really that important to me. Maybe if it's some extreme thing that takes place, I'll be there, right? Because a lot of times we do that. If it's an extreme thing, we have to wait for that to happen before we make the connection. But until we start recognizing that it's up to us to prioritize our friendships and these connections, yeah, it's gonna be really difficult for us to grow, in the sense of in community, right? Because of course you could read books and things like that. I don't want to make it seem like if you don't have your friends, you're not going to grow. That's not necessarily true. But to have people that can hold you accountable, to have people that can speak life into you, to have people that can encourage you, to have people that can help you keep going, that's you.
Big.
And maybe if that man that took the life of his kids and his wife, and I believe himself as well,
Yep.
maybe if he had someone to lean on, he wouldn't have went down that road. Maybe if a lot of men, especially those who unalive themselves, maybe a lot of them wouldn't have gone that route if someone was like, hey, bro, we'll get through this. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I heard stories that back when the Great Depression happened, and there were men that were jumping from buildings
Right.
because
Right.
it was all over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're still here today. They lost everything and they're still here today. And I have no doubt in my mind that there was a community that was there that says, yeah, we're all going through it, but we're going to share the load. Hey, I'm cooking today, you cook tomorrow. Hey, we're going to put our little money together. But if you're isolated and you think like, oh my gosh, it's over, so that's where that growth, that's where that connection and that friend, that's where that comes in, right? So that when you feel that you're at your lowest point, you can have someone be like, hey, bro, listen, it's all good. I'll share one last story and then I'll pass it back off. I remember when it was 2018, my wife had lost her job. I wasn't making a ton of money back then. And essentially we were a sinking ship. We were in the red and continued to go in the red. Couldn't pay mortgage, couldn't pay car notes, couldn't pay credit cards. Phone got cut off at one point in time. But I was staying positive, right? I was staying very positive, like, it's going to be okay and we're going to make it and da-da-da-da. And then one night I was bathing my son, and put a whole bunch of wipes in the toilet. And I didn't know you couldn't do that.
Okay,
And then the toilet. And then I researched it and they said, oh, just unclog the toilet. I'm like, oh, okay. So I unclogged the toilet. It created a massive vacuum from all the sinks and drains. And then that massive vacuum shot the water and then started leaking through the roof.
Wow.
And I saw that, mind you, it was like thing on top of thing. And I'm like, I got it. But when that happened, it just like something broke. I was like, come on, man. Like, enough. Like, can I catch a break? But my friend was there. My friend, Brother Powell was there, and he said it was just something simple. It wasn't anything. It wasn't no prayer meeting. It wasn't no, hey, let's break down the 5 this or that. It wasn't like that. It was as simple as him saying, hey, bro, don't worry about it. It's gonna be okay, right? Hey, you got insurance. Your home, they'll take care of it, man. Don't worry about it, man. Hey, I've been through it. We'll get through it. That's all I needed to regroup. And maybe share that the whole testimony later on. But long story short, that became actually a blessing, right? Because long story short, when it comes to having a friend, sometimes you don't need a motivational speech sometimes.
No.
Sometimes you just need someone to be alongside you.
It's okay.
Okay.
I've been through it.
Yeah, you'll get through this, right? Sometimes that's all we need. And so that's why it's important to prioritize our friendships. Because the fact of the matter is, you never know when you're going to need that just word of encouragement. You never know when you're going to need that support, right? It can come at any time. So if you cultivate those relationships, you will then have access to that, right? You'll have access to those friends, access to those lines of connection. And you'll also be a point of access for them. I know this whole time we've been talking about you accessing your friends, but you also become an access to them as well. Because when they're going through, they'll be able to call on you. So it works both ways. And that's how you rebuild and reignite your community and reignite those connections by just reaching out. Right? And then vicariously, though, and I will say this, because I do want to tie it all together, but vicariously, you will grow, right? If you're around your friends and they're dealing in one thing and you're doing something else, like, you're going to grow. I think the book on The Magic of Thinking Big, it talks about that, how you should have a heterogeneous friend group, right? People that are in different areas, different things, and different
exactly what they say.
It shouldn't be homogenous where everyone's the same, thinks the same, acts the same, talks the same. There can't really be a lot of growth there because there's no change in perspective. So having that heterogeneous group is really helpful. But again, you have to prioritize it. You're not too busy. You just didn't prioritize it. Now, hopefully after this podcast, you could understand the importance of prioritizing those friendships, right? So that's
that is 100% spot on and everything, because that's all you need. All you need is someone to tell you it'll be all right, and you're gonna snap out. It's called a pattern interrupt. You're gonna be like, you know what? It really will be all right. It doesn't have to go to that extreme, because I have a guy he's a speaker for the online circuit and stuff. His podcast is Return on Relationships. He don't invest in anything but relationships. And he's a keynote speaker also. But I understand.
Espresso's the best one.
I like this espresso.
The best one.
I sent up some samples. I'm getting things back right now. Like, they love the espresso. The teachers at the school, they're like this. And guys, if you're looking for a quick picker-upper, let me buy you a cup of coffee, right? Let me know. Alert Pop. You can buy them on Amazon, TikTok shop. Send me an address. Reach out to me. I'll send you some samples. I got a whole box. I got 1,000 of them lying on my floor right over here in a box right now. But guys, watch us. Come back next week. Get your questions answered. Go to our site, boundariesandbrotherhood.com. It's linked to the blog. There's blog posts going in on everything else over there. I'm putting 2 posts a day in it. I got faceless videos to get you an encouragement during the day, going out through the whole day. So guys, I want to say thank you. Aloha, and we'll see you next week. Close the show.
All right, you guys, take care. Reignite those friendships. I want you, if I leave you guys the homework assignment, reach out to someone you haven't talked to in a while, right? Reach out to a friend you haven't talked to in a while. Check up on him. See how he's doing, right? Start making it a regular occurrence where you are contacting and reaching out and making some type of connection. You guys link up, go to each other's house, have a barbecue, watch a game together, something like that.
Video game.
Yeah, like link up with video games. I know a lot of guys actually do that. A lot of guys. That's actually a lot more common now, being that the millennials, obviously of us coming out of the whole, the video game revolution, that kind of really building. That was a big part of our life. There are a lot of guys that do connect with video games. So listen to that, man. Y'all find a game, Madden, Call of Duty, whatever. Find a way to connect and stay connected and prioritize that. There are probably some of you that have wives that are like, man, I wish you would get out the house and go find someone. So it's necessary. And the women see it too, because the women understand the value of having those friends to go to. Right. Yeah. Some of y'all relationships are still intact right now because they have friends to go to. Now, how much better would it be if it was on both sides? We both had people we could go to. Right. We're not designed to do this alone. Never. From the very beginning. Right. Whether you're religious or not, it's not good for us to be alone. It's just not. And I'm not talking about a relationship. I'm talking about us connecting as just human beings. We're not supposed to be alone. So make it a priority this week to reach out to a friend you haven't talked to in a minute. Make it a priority to reach out to them. Right? Start reignite that. Set something up on a regular basis. Maybe it's a monthly basis. Maybe you do it like that, or if you can do it for a weekly basis, that's even better. Obviously, the more connection, the better. And if you have a friend group, you guys haven't been together for a long time, y'all link up and get together. It's a guy's trip, not to Vegas. Y'all don't come here. Come here. Find somewhere else. They ain't wild and crazy.
Not to Houston, not to Texas, not to Florida, maybe Nashville. I'm not hearing nothing bad about Nashville right now. Maybe that's the party place right now.
But, don't go to those places, right? But y'all find a place, go on a fishing trip. There you go. Go on a fishing trip somewhere, deep sea fishing, something like that. Maybe go to a sporting event, something along those lines, right? Just reignite those connections, guys. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a blessing to your life. It's gonna be a blessing to your marriage. It's gonna be a blessing. You're gonna be a blessing to somebody else too. All right. So y'all do that. That's your homework assignment. And guys, we'll see you again next week. Y'all take care. Have a great and blessed day. Remember, you are not alone at any point in time. All right.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us. Aloha.